Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ballot Access presentation for a 50-state strategy for ballot access for 2024. I'm the host, Felina, and today we'll be having a presentation by our Ballot Access Committee co-chair, Tony Ndege, and Rick Lass, who is the Ballot Access coordinator for Dr. West's campaign, and Nathan Kline. And no one told me your title. I'm sorry.
I'm the outreach coordinator with the Kansas City chapter of the Missouri Green Party.
Thank you. I wasn't sure who was going to lead first. Was it Tony or Rick?
Tony.
Go ahead, Tony. I'm still letting people in.
One quick thing we found on the last call, and there was an overseas contingent, but if there are a lot of people, turning off your video as well as turning off the mic did make a big difference. So if there are people having internet issues, it might help to turn off the video, except for the presenters, obviously, and hosts, but for the rest of us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I just want to make sure. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to our 50-state strategy ballot access committee of the GPUS meeting. And this will be one of many meetings. So if you feel as though you leave this meeting and not having all of your questions answered, we will be having several more. In fact, we'll be having a volunteer meeting in a couple of weeks. The Ballot Access Committee is one of the several working committees of the Green Party of the United States. And of course, we focus on ballot access. One of the great things that we do is that we have a ballot access fund that we provide to, we provided tens of thousands of dollars to dozens of states over the years, probably hundreds of thousands by now, over the past several years. And this has been, make it or break it funding that we have provided, and also other support to states in getting in contact with people like petitioners and what have you. My name's Tony Ndege. I am one of the co-chairs of the steering committee of the Green Party of the United States. We have 7 members of the Green Party steering committee, and but I'm also a co-chair of the Ballot Access Committee. Ballot Access is very near and dear to me, also to the guy who recruited me to the Green Party, Bruce Dixon, rest in peace, from Georgia, former co-chair. And I really in the process of petitioning for Georgia, but really I helped a lot of other parties in the past petition for ballot access. I really got to see how difficult it is and how infuriating it is. I mean, people may think it's difficult, but until you do it, you have no idea. It can be very difficult. Sometimes I want to say impossible, because I think we are going into the 2024 with the goal of being on the ballot in all 50 states and the majority of U.S. territories, quote unquote. So yeah, let's do it. I just wanted to talk to you before our main presenters, Rick and Nathan, talk to you more about specifics about ballot access and how to petition, what have you. Just wanted to talk a little bit about what ballot access is. So ballot access is the process by which a party or a candidate or sometimes a slate of candidates can appear on the ballot for either the primary and or the general election. So sometimes you have to appear in the primary. Oftentimes you do not, according to ballot access statutes, because we don't often get on the ballot in states until June, July, August, which is after most of the primaries. So that also varies. There's a lot that varies, and we'll be re-emphasizing that, and Rick will be re-emphasizing that. So it's certainly not one size fits all. It's more like 1 million different kinds of sizes, may or may not be difficult or very difficult to accomplish. Some ways that we can qualify for ballot access, the largest, by far the most common way of qualifying is via petition. So, you have to petition either as a state party. Sometimes you have to as a candidate. Sometimes it's a combination, and I'll go over that just a little bit. There's a few states like Washington State, maybe, that have a somewhat reasonable petitioning, petitioning threshold, but most states do not. Most states have an unreasonably high, very high petitioning threshold. My state, where I'm from in North Carolina, for the longest time, we had to get over 80,000, 90,000 signatures, which no party's ever done. Even the libertarians, who tend to be much more well-financed than us for many reasons, they have never been able to get that many signatures. So that shows you how the extent to which these laws are prohibitive. However, we can petition, and there are folks who petitioned and lobbied and got a law passed in North Carolina. So now our requirement is still high. It's very difficult, but we did it. It was enough for us to do. We got over 22,000 raw signatures. We were required to have close to 14,000 what's called certified signatures. They basically go over it all with a fine-tooth comb, and sometimes questionably, and we did it. We had to go through a lawsuit to do it. Some of you might have remembered hearing last year about Matthew Ho, who was our senator candidate for U.S. Senator. He basically, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee started calling all of the people that we petitioned, even though we can't contact them without having them sign a different sheet. But nevertheless, they were given that information, and they used their expensive tools to call all of these people, and still they failed. They failed in as well as there was attempts to silence us by the Board of Elections, and that failed by a ruling at the federal district circuit. So it's ballot access is difficult. There are states where you can petition. If you're talking about petitioning, you can petition at all levels. So like if you get in as a statewide party, you win ballot access at all levels for your parties. But there's some states where you have to petition at all levels. So just because, let's say in Arizona, we can, if Arizona Green Party gets on the ballot that qualifies them to run federal candidates for 2024, which would be a nail biter. They don't have a lot of time. That's a long story, but they have the earliest deadline. Then they would still have to petition at the county level. So it's very complex. There's about as many different kinds of rules and laws and statutes for ballot access, pertaining to ballot access, as there are cities in the country. I mean, it's literally that many kinds of, that kind of complexity. There's states where you don't have to petition necessarily, and there's also states where you can't register for a political party in the traditional sense, like in Texas, for example. So you have to petition for recognition as a party, but people don't necessarily register green in the traditional sense. That's determined by how they vote in the primary. So that's, like I said, there's a lot of unusual aspects to this, and it's just about as many kind of rules as there are, people, which is a problem. There's states where you don't necessarily have to petition. Like in Vermont, you could hold 10 township meetings with your party and qualify that way. You still have to have those ratified, but if you have a local township meeting with a co-chair and a treasurer and a secretary, and submit that paperwork, then you can qualify. Greens can qualify, and whatever party can qualify as a recognized minor or a major party. In this case, minor political party in Vermont. So it's not just all petitioning. There's also states where you can qualify via voter registration. Of course, voter registration is much more difficult in general than petitioning, because petitioning, for most states, not all, for most states, you can petition folks who are, registered independent or unaffiliated or Democrat or Republican, as long as they're a registered voter. That's the case in most states, but not all. So that's another thing. So I could, spend about 10 hours going through all of the different kinds of ways that you can a state party or a candidate or a Green candidate can achieve ballot access and what that means, because sometimes Greens will have to get on the ballot as an independent candidate, and sometimes that actually will still qualify us potentially towards, if that candidate reaches a certain threshold of votes, can qualify the party. But in other states, it doesn't. I spoke with Richard Winger about this, and he said, Richard Winger is the premier ballot access expert. I think everyone would agree. He's the longtime editor of Ballot Access News. And he said there's really no other comparable country with any kind of regularity of electoral participation, with the level of complexity and difficulty of laws and legal and statute barriers to ballot access in the world. So for a nation that prides itself on talking about democracy a lot, and we hear a lot of that kind of propaganda, that is a very powerful fact. We hear a lot about gerrymandering, which is absolutely an issue in terms of voter participation access. And a lot of that could be solved by proportional representation, which Greens support and would be a lot more democratic than the system that we have today. But the other question is ballot access, voter choice access. So, yeah, you can get to the polls, or yeah, you can fight for the ability to register and the ability to vote easier. But then when you get there, who do you have to vote for? Who do you have to vote for? In many cases, in especially urban areas and what have you, it's like, who do you have to vote for? People who, this person who will lock us up, or that person who will lock us up, or, charge, have set high bail. And this is oftentimes the Democrats, it's as bad or worse than Republicans, especially at the local level. If people like to talk about local level elections, there's oftentimes more barriers towards actually democratic participation in local areas. So that's a whole lot. That's a whole lot to think about. The point is that there's lots of different ways to get on the ballot. We might not be able to get on the ballot in all 50 states. I can tell you we won't be able to get on the ballot in all 50 states via statewide party access, and that's not even a possibility, as I just said. But I think we'll be able to do that in a lot of states, and I think we'll be able to get our presidential or other candidates on the ballot in many states. I'll just go ahead and stop now, because I do want to hear from Rick and from Nathan Kline. I would like to introduce Rick very briefly, but before I do that, or I don't know if Felina wants to introduce Rick again, but before I do that, I do want to share with you the Ballot Access Committee is having volunteer meetings. So we have one business meeting a month, and any of you who are Greens, who are active in your local or state party, can get appointed to the Ballot Access Committee as a voting member or voting representative of your state party or your caucus, your identity caucus, or you can join as an observer, but you would still have to go through a process of either being appointed that way. If you do not have a state party, you can ask to be appointed as an observer by contacting us. So I will also give you the email in the chat for Ballot Access Committee for emailing the co-chairs. So actually, if Jenny, if someone could post that in chat, that would be wonderful. But I'll copy and paste it in chat because sometimes I get it wrong too. But you can email us if you don't. Let's say you're in a state that does not have a very either a very active party or the party is currently inactive, or local that's inactive. You can still potentially be an observer in the ballot access committees. We want you. We absolutely would love for your participation. However, either way, we're having an open volunteer meeting on the 21st. So our second meeting, we used to do 2 business meetings a month. That just became a lot. So what we're going to do is we're going to have 1 business meeting where we make decisions on things like funding and what have you, and also discuss the state of affairs. But we'll also have another meeting during most months where we have a volunteer meeting. We'll also be having volunteer meetings in your specific states. So there's some states that we want to get activated a little, or reactivated a little bit more, and be cheerleaders. So like we're going to be coming to your state via Zoom or maybe even in person, some of us, and we'll be having some volunteer meetings for specific states as well to assist your state in anything. With a lot of the experience that we've had, we will make sure that we get the job done in most states. That is all I have to say. I do want to introduce Rick Lass, and he gave me a very modest bio, so I'll add to it a little bit. Rick has been involved with green politics since 1995 as a party chair, a candidate, press secretary, and campaign manager. Rick led the successful ballot access drive for the Stein-Baraka campaign in 2016, which is fantastic. Rick lives in Mimbres, New Mexico, and Rick, did phenomenal job in 2016, and hopefully we'll continue that trend at a higher level. Let's do it. So,
right.
So for the delay.
All right, well, let's do it. Great. Yes, so I'm Rick Lass. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm just amazed. We have 74 people here. Everyone's been in meetings all weekend, and yet they made the time to come today to learn how we're going to get on the ballot in all 50 states, and hopefully how you all can help us do that. I may repeat some of the things that Tony said, but bear with me. And I'm going to start with an overview of the different types of states that we have to deal with. And then I'll go into what our plan is to make sure we're on all 50 states, and some will definitely be tougher than others. So our main goal, and when I say I am wearing 2 hats. I'm the New Mexico Green Party's representative on the Ballot Access Committee. And as was mentioned earlier, I'm also the Ballot Access Director for Cornell West. And I fully realize that Cornell is not the candidate. And what is going to apply here applies to anyone seeking the nomination, and will apply to whoever the eventual nominee and vice presidential candidate is. And I get sloppy and say presidential candidate when I often mean presidential and vice presidential candidates. So forgive me that in advance, please. But our main goal is to achieve full party status in as many states as we possibly can, so that Green parties can nominate candidates who can run for everything from local offices to Senate campaigns, US Senate, US Congress. In most states, I believe they have to receive a party nomination either through a convention or going through a primary, depending on the state. There are cases where the candidates are going to petition for a place on the ballot just for that presidential, vice presidential role, and other candidates have to do their own petition if they want to run for Senate or Congress, or I hate to call them lower office, because we all know local offices are equally important and in some ways more important. In some of those states, most of those states that people are petitioning for their individual race, the party label will apply, but there are states that don't allow it. Idaho comes to mind as a state where if you're running as an independent, it won't say Green Party. And then in some states, there's a decision that's going to have to be made by the candidates and the state parties, which route to take. And I'm going to bring up Idaho again. 17,000 signatures to get the Green Party on the ballot in Idaho so we can run a full slate of candidates, or 1,000 signatures so we can run a presidential candidate. Ohio, 40,000 for the full state party, 5,000 for the individual candidate. So those are, strategic decisions are going to have to be made based on resources, both human and financial. And those are decisions that will be made in the future, or some have been made already. And then there's still other states, it's not even possible to get the full party status. There's 9 of those. No, there's 11 of those. I correct myself. So the only option, if we want our presidential nominee on the ballot in New York, New Jersey, Kentucky, is to do the single candidate or presidential, vice presidential candidate petition. So there's a lot of decisions to be made. And for you lucky states, or states that have worked hard in the past that are already on the ballot with the Green Party full ticket, we have 2 requests. One is, we're going to need a point person for elections that is going to find out all the details we need about how to file, what paperwork is needed, what the deadlines are, all that kind of stuff. And I bring that up this early because in 2016, we got a letter from a certain state secretary of state that said, I can't remember if it was your party or your presidential candidate failed to file the presidential elector slate by the given date, so you will not appear on the ballot. We threatened litigation. It had been litigated before. We ended up on the ballot. It wasn't that big a deal, but for about 10 days, it was a really big deal that none of us wanted to deal with when we had 20 other ballot access drives going on. So it's really important in every state that you have a point person that's going to find out all these rules and make sure we don't miss deadlines. We also had a lot of things where it's like, we need your signatures on these forms by the end of business tomorrow and things like that. So we want to avoid that as much as possible, because this is going to be hard enough without super urgent things coming up either last minute or after the fact. And the second thing, for states who are already on the ballot, we would love to organize what I'm right now calling a Green Neighbors program, where you're on the ballot in California, but we need people to go to Arizona and Nevada and help them out. Or in Maine, you Mainers can go to New Hampshire or Massachusetts and help us with our ballot drives there. Have a little road trip, do a couple days petitioning and then maybe go camping or have a fun time in the big city or whatever. So that's sort of the lay of the land and the decisions that are going to have to be made, and the things that we're going to need to do to get on the ballot in all 50 states. Now, we do have a question and answer period coming up, by the way, in case you didn't see the overview of the presentation. So if you have questions, keep hold of those and we'll get to them after Nathan's part of the discussion. So again, we want to be on the ballot in all 50 states. So how are we going to do that? Well, the first thing, as I sort of alluded to just now, is we need a state leader or a group of leaders, a ballot access committee, ballot access leader, whatever, in each of the states that can work with their volunteers and possibly with paid people, and who will report with national liaisons, either the national party or the county candidates committee, rather, in your state. And the main 5 things the state leaders are going to need to do, and I have these sort of in not necessarily 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 order, because everything's happening at once. But the main thing I would say as a state leader is you want to get, I don't know if you want to call them deputies, but set up regional leaders. So in bigger states, that might be, the southern part. It might be by congressional districts. In smaller states, it might be municipal or county people, so that one person's not the only one dealing with volunteers, especially in the bigger states. The next thing is recruiting and training volunteers. Either the regional or state leaders are going to need to have a good program of how to get volunteers on the ground, and so that they know what they're doing. They have confidence to talk to strangers and ask them to support our candidate or our party. Along with that is tracking these volunteers. You train them and then you don't hear from them for 2 or 3 weeks and then they're gone. You want to make sure you have a calendar that every chance you get, you're talking to them, whether it's the day they go out and come back, or you set a day to talk to them. Another really important role of the state leader is, or part of the state committee of leaders, whatever you set up in your state, is to research state laws and administrative codes. As Tony mentioned, everything's different in every state, and he even exaggerates more, well, not exaggerates, but points to the truth more than I do. I always say in every state, but it's true in every municipality, in every county, you have different laws. So you have to find all that out, find out what are all the procedures, what's legal, what's not legal, what are the deadlines, things like that. And then again, communicate with national staff, whether you're working with the party or a candidate on your petition drive is really important. And I will get to that a little more in depth in a minute, but I have 3 things that I say, think outside just petitioning. And again, you need to know the laws in your state, but while you're out petitioning, can you also register voters? In some states you can, in some states you can't. If you're wearing a Green Party button, you can't be asking people to register to vote because it is biased, but in other states it's perfectly legal. And can you promote an event? Is your party doing a candidate forum, or is a labor union near you having a rally? Can you pass out postcards? Is that something that you want to do as part of your petition drive? And can you recruit more volunteers? I would say, to me, that's the most important thing. If you got someone that says, oh, I would love to see the Green Party on the ballot, you should have a click mechanism in your brain that says your next question is, well, will you help us get other people to sign as well, and not just you? So those are 3 things you can and hopefully will be doing along with petitioning. The #1 goal is to get the petition signatures. You don't want to be having long half-hour discussions with one person when you're only going to be there for 2 hours and have a goal of 50 signatures or whatever, but there are other things you can do. So the next thing I want to discuss is the actual petition drive. So how's that going to work? And again, it's going to work differently in every state. And Nathan's going to elaborate on a lot of this, but I just want to quickly cover a couple points. So basically, I mentioned this already, state leaders are going to make sure the petition is in order. This is where I want to try to share my screen, and this could get tough, but in some states, it's very difficult. Let's see if I can share screen and then pull up. Oh no, where'd my petitions go? Uh-oh, I may not have what I thought I had. Oh, that's horrible. All right, well, you don't need to see about cactus and succulents. So let's see if I can cancel this and close my screen. I had 2 petitions right there and they're gone, but the 2 I had was New Mexico, which is literally print your name, sign your name, put your address and what county you live in. And at the top, it just says, I'm a registered voter in New Mexico and I want to see the Green Party on the ballot. And the other one I had was Nevada, which is much more complicated. You have to have the county and the congressional district because you have to have distribution in every congressional district. And then you have much more difficult to understand way of signing. It's 4 boxes in a row and then a line and then 4 boxes, not in a row, I should say. And then you have to fill out like, I authorize this. And then you have to take it down to a notary public and have them see you sign it. So they make it easy in some states, difficult in others. As Tony said, a million different ways to get a petition and get on the ballot. So I apologize for my lack of technical expertise, but there you have it. And I'm not sharing my screen anymore, right?
That's correct.
Okay, good. All right. So the other thing we'd really like after you get the petition prepared and authorized is to share it with the Green Party Ballot Access Committee so we can put it on our website. And in easy states where the petitions just print it and get it signed, people can be self-recruiting and self-motivating. So we'll want to have a form of the petition, and we'll want to have the contact information of the state leader and or congressional district leaders or other regional leaders. We want to make this as easy for volunteers as possible. We're getting lots of volunteers, I think, both through the national party and through the many different presidential campaigns. And we want to just be able to send them an email says, click here, go, get started, as much as possible. Of course, they still need to be trained in most cases. Nathan's going to talk more about that. And the other thing, when you start your petition drive, is don't just say, here's your petition, go get them. You know, if you have someone who's been petitioning for 20 years, you can do that. But for most people, you are going to be training and retraining volunteers on a regular basis. And you want to be able to provide, hey, we got 4 people going to the farmer's market. It'd be great if you 2 could come too. And then we have 6. Or, you know, we're canvassing this neighborhood. Here's your walking list. Here's your script. And go over with them. And I hadn't put script in my notes, but you definitely want to have scripts for your petitioners. And data reporting is critical, is the other aspect of the petition drive. You want to check in, you know, ideally, you send people out Saturday morning and you tell them to meet you between 4 and 5 when they're done, or between 2 and 3 when they're done, and collect what they've gotten already. And then you should have a spreadsheet with every volunteer, how many signatures they've collected. And that will help you in a lot of different ways. And it will help the national campaign and the candidates' campaigns as well. You should have set dates to receive numbers from people early on, maybe every other week, but as it heats up, once a week, like, hey, I want to hear from you on Tuesday on how your weekend went. And if you don't hear from them, you call them. You don't want to find out that someone's got 100 signatures in the trunk of their car. You want to collect the signatures as often as you can, and you want to be in contact with your volunteers. I really think at least weekly, starting now. And monitor how different techniques go. If you canvass a neighborhood and hardly get any signatures, and your petitioners come back and say, oh, there were locked gates, there were dogs in every yard, that's a horrible neighborhood, you don't go back there. But you went to the Walmart parking lot and you got 100 signatures with 3 people in 2 hours, then hey, that's a place to go again. Although you don't want to go to the same place too many times because you get repeats. I have 2 sort of rules of thumb as a leader organizer that I like to impart to people and hope that they think they're good too. And one is, some is not a number and soon is not a time. If you got a canvasser who said he went out and got some signatures, you want to say, well, how many? Was it 8 or was it 80? You know, some means a lot of different things to people. And also, if you give someone a petition and you call them a week later and they haven't done anything, and it's like, when are you going to go out? Oh, I'll get out soon. Well, then you want to say, well, can you come Friday with us to the concert? Does that fit with your calendar? Or soon meaning this weekend or next weekend? And you don't want to be mean, definitely. You don't want to super pressure people, although you want to kind of pressure people, you know, nudge, not push people. And the other thing I have learned over the years is, if it's not written down, it doesn't really exist yet. It may be that they told you they have 25 signatures and then it's just in your head that they have 25 signatures. But especially as we get closer to deadlines, we're really, the campaigns and the national party are going to need to figure out where to allocate resources. And if we don't know how many signatures you've gathered in whatever state, then we don't know if you need our help or not. And there will be states that need a lot of help, and there will be states that don't need much at all. That's just how it is with the state of the Green Party right now and the state of election laws. And that's really about it. I had three things I wrote down as kind of just summarize what I said, which was report your results to national regularly, so we can adjust what I just said. I'm repeating myself, I apologize. And again, training and retraining volunteers is going to be ongoing. And it's not just based on the volunteers' performance. The campaign's goals are going to shift as well. Things might come up and it's like, hey, we want to start talking about our relationship with this other group now, or it's hard to predict, but things just change during the course of the campaign. Some of these petition drives are going to go on for months. So we need to be flexible. And the other thing I probably should have mentioned earlier, and Nathan probably was going to mention anyways, but when you have new volunteers and you have experienced volunteers, pair them up. The first time someone goes, especially if it's like literally the first time they've ever petitioned, send them with an experienced person. So, you know, our campaigns are going to develop super volunteers who come every week. They do great work. give them a little bit of leadership and recognition and say, hey, do you mind taking this new person out with you because you do such great work? It's so important to thank your volunteers every time they go out and every time you talk to them. So with that, I will thank all of you for being here and pass it over to Nathan Kline, who's the outreach director for the Kansas City Greens and very involved with the Missouri Green Party's petition drive. If you haven't yet seen it, go to the Green Party of Missouri and click on petition drive. They have an amazing slideshow that every state should have a similar slideshow, in my opinion. So take it away, Nathan.
All right, thanks, Rick, and everybody on the panel today, and everybody coming and showing. I mean, it's really exciting to see so many people interested in this. You know, we here in Missouri and Kansas City are, you know, it's really starting to get more volunteers that are even coming to us. We're not, you know, just cold calling us, hey, I want to help, and so it's kind of a real exciting time to be in the Green Party. Just to give you a little background on myself, you know, I've been petitioning to get the Green Party on the ballot since 1996, and Missouri's been off and on statewide ballot access over the years. You know, we'll get it, we'll lose.
You're muted, Nathan.
I'm sorry. Was I muted the whole time? I thought I unmuted. I'm sorry. Thanks,
You did.
everybody.
You were just saying you were on and off the ballot, and then you
Okay.
got muted somehow.
So we've been on and off the ballot. I myself have run as a clean green candidate a couple of times. I run for Missouri State Senate. I ran for Jackson County, Missouri executive. That's the primary county for Kansas City, Missouri, and 36,000 of my neighbors voted for me. This is a growing thing. We know we're strong at the grassroots, and that's where we can win. You know, nobody else is going out there doing this face-to-face retail politic like we are. Last year, in 2000, we lost our ballot access in Missouri, and last year we had an all-volunteer effort to get back on the ballot. We actually collected more signatures than we needed. We turned them into the Secretary of State's office, and they told us that too many of them were illegible. So that's the number one thing on, with new volunteers and everybody else, legibility, because, you know, that'll kill you. And that's why you need to get a lot more than the minimum. We're back out this year. We've got a better start. We've been petitioning since January. We've already got well over 3,000. Our goal is 15. We need 10, but we need at least 15. Hopefully it's really ramping up in Missouri. Let's just give us a little background. But ballot access, really, this is the most important thing. That's what makes us a political party. We're not a political party without ballot access. And it's really what gives us our leverage and our power in American politics. And it's why we have great candidates that are stepping up and wanting to run as Greens, because of our ability to get ballot access, frankly. That separates us from most other parties in the country. But needing to get ballot access and the hurdles that the other parties throw in our way, it's kind of a cloud with some silver linings, is what I like to say. I mean, it forces us to get out there and talk with our neighbors, and that's a good thing, okay? Because this makes us spread the Green Party message and brings new people into the party. It also provides a very meaningful activity for Greens to do, right? If you've got work for people to do, then that's going to, people are attracted to activity and getting stuff done. And that's what the Green Party's always out here doing, right? We're out on the street, we're talking to our neighbors. And we've proved we can do it. We've done it many times. We're gonna get it done this year. Okay. We're gonna be on the ballot in most of the states, and we're certainly going to be in enough ballots around the country to win this thing. Okay. And we're going to win some races. And, I'm out there talking to thousands of my neighbors. I was out petitioning today, and people are hungry for any way out of the corrupt cul-de-sac trick bag that the Democrats and Republicans have wandered American politics into. I mean, and it's across the political spectrum. People that identify themselves as conservatives, liberals, it's not a real left-right thing. It's a democracy thing. And the Green Party is the only party out there that's offering candidates that won't serve the corporate interests, that will actually serve the people of the district they're elected from, right? So what do we got to do? I mean, really, around the country, we're going to have to probably get 500,000 signatures. That's spread around the country, right? To get ballot access in 51 states. That sounds like a lot, completely doable thing. That means our volunteers are going to have to, probably have, a couple million conversations, but when you face-to-face conversations are the most powerful, ways to communicate with our neighbors, much more powerful than a leaflet that, or marketing campaign, or a radio ad, or a TV ad, or a Facebook ad. When you get to talk with your neighbors that, that believe what they're doing and are volunteering to do it, that's very powerful. And I see it all the time, and people get real excited. A lot of people don't know about it, and every contact is golden. Okay. So it's very exciting, how do you petition like a pro? What are the strategies that are successful? I think that Rick talked a lot about it, said a lot about it. But you got to go to where the people are at. Okay. And you got to go to big public events, where you can set up, where you're allowed to be. And that's the public right of way. That's where your First Amendment rights are, where they can't shut you down, where you can talk with your neighbors. And oftentimes, that's at the edge of the city market. That's right outside the public library. Local businesses like a grocery store that you can get between the front door of that place and where they parked, basically, right? And city markets are awesome. Concert events, things like this. And you just set up, a small outreach table with some literature, things like that. Here in Missouri, we've produced some good literature to hand out to people that look like they're more interested. And but you can go real light. You can have just a couple of clipboards, some pens, but you're gonna, you got to tell, your new recruits, it's really good. What I do when I get someone, what we do is when we get someone that wants to help, we go, okay, come and work with us. I'm going to be down at the city market on Saturday from 10 to 2. Show up, help out. I'll tell you what I tell people, bring a hat, you bring some sunscreen, bring some water, because you've got to set people up to succeed. And, get them, say, watch me for a minute, and then when you get the spirit, go, and I've seen the light bulb go off on people's heads and people get into it. Got a new recruit that I was just working with this last week, and man, he's so excited. He's like, man, I've got 50 signatures already. I'm like, yeah. I mean, he's just gone on his own, and it's real exciting when you see it happen, but when you're out there, I mean, we're not out there to argue with people. We're not out there to, we're out there to make friends. Someone's walking up, you make eye contact with them, you smile, I mean, the Green Party is a friendly, approachable, helpful public service organization, right? And first thing you got to identify if they're eligible to sign your petition. Are they a registered voter? In most places, they're going to have to be a registered voter to sign this petition. If they're not, they can't sign it. You wish them a good day. You're a welcome wagon for your community. Welcome to, somebody says, I'm from Nebraska. Well, welcome to Kansas City. Have a great time while you're here, and they say, everybody, no matter what, they have an interaction with somebody that's a Green Party person, and it's like a positive experience. If it was nothing more than that, it's like, they go, what's the Green Party? Those are those nice people that I bumped into down at the city market when I was down there in Kansas City. They were really friendly, at the very least, we're building bridges, right? If somebody says, oh, you're a bunch of trash. Oh, have a good day, because eventually, hopefully, we want them to walk across that bridge and come to us, right? I don't have a lot of negative. I don't have a whole bunch of negative responses. I mean, people are hungry for real public service and candidates that will serve the interests of the of the people of the district they're elected from, as opposed to wealthy donors. People want that. They just don't know how to get it. And we're the only ones out here trying to give it to them. And so many people are, you know, they take the literature and I say, hey, we want you to volunteer. Some of them go on and do that. Hey, we want you to think about running for office. Now we're going to vet them and all this kind of stuff, but we want to get into their heads. This is how that Americans are going to fix American democracy. If we wait for these two corporate parties that built the play-to-play system to do it, it ain't going to happen, right? We're going to do it. The Green Party is the only party trying to do this, right? So you go out there, you don't be pushy, you don't argue. You know, if someone wants to argue, go, hey, I'm not out here to argue. I'm out here to get signatures. I wish you well, brother. Have a wonderful day, you know? And that, you know, we're making friends. We're making friends. That's the main thing, right? And I'm out there making tons of friends. There's Greens around Missouri doing it, and there's Greens all over the nation doing it. You know, when we add all this up, this can really steamroll and really catch fire. And, you know, we've been rubbing two sticks together for a long time, but we're still doing it, right? We haven't collapsed. So many other efforts have failed. The Green Party hasn't failed. The Green Party is still at it. The Green Party has been rubbing these sticks together, and eventually it's going to catch on fire, because what we're offering is needed, right? You know, so we're going to go out there and what people want is choices, right? Americans like choices. We got 75 kinds of toothpaste. Why can't we have three parties, right? But what people really want is corporate free candidates that will serve them, right? And when they see that that's an option, they get excited about that. You know, we need competition. You know, Americans believe that competition leads to better performance, right? And when you give people, you know, these are arguments for why people should sign this petition. You know, but it's very important that you do make sure people understand that by signing this petition, this is not much you're asking people, right? You're not asking people to even to support the Green Party. We're asking you to support democracy and choice in American politics, right? Letting people vote for who they want to and increasing competition, and that leads to better performance. And you can explain to people, and people already know it because they went and voted and they've seen this, that the two parties gerrymander the districts so that about 2/3 of districts around the nation are single party districts. And literally the blue team and the red team don't run against each other. Where I live, the red team doesn't run anything for anything. And I go vote and it's just a corrupt blue team incumbent, and I don't have any choices. You go outside of town, it's the same thing, right? It's just the red team incumbents, but they're taking money from the exact same corporate interests. They're not serving us. They're not serving the American taxpayer, the American communities, right? And so people are like, hell yeah, let me sign that thing, you know? And people across the political spectrum, right, are very excited about that idea. And that's what we got to do. We sometimes we got to explain this to people. People are like, yeah, I go vote. And there's no choices. It's not an accident. It's set up this way, you know, help do something about it, you know. But whether they sign it or not, we're friendly. We thank them for stopping and chatting. We, you know, wish them a wonderful day. We smile at them, even if they frown at us, because that's us. I mean, we're your neighbor. We're your neighbor that's here to offer you an opportunity to get out of this mess, right? And we're volunteers. We're not getting, you know, most of us in Missouri, we're all volunteers. Nobody's getting paid to do this. And that also speaks a lot. That speaks a lot to people, you know, but it's very important, just like Rick was saying, that we are coordinated, right? Here in Missouri, we've now set up a monthly meeting for volunteers from around the state to meet, compare notes, kind of turn in, you know, this is what I got, so that we can kind of keep a running total. And you know, it also connect people with resources like notaries. We have notaries around the state to do this and help out. And you know, we'll travel, and you know, we'll even travel to other parts of the state and help kick them off. You know, so this is, this there's so many people out there that are out there and wishing that there was something to hook into, and we're giving them an opportunity to hook in. And what I tell people is you found your family, you found your people. We're here, we're working, we welcome you with open arms, but also the Green Party is a small d democratic organization, right? You're not coming in here and you got some boss. You're a co-leader of this leaderful movement, and that, come and help lead this movement, and that, and people are like, oh, that sounds cool. That sounds, revolutionary. and we haven't given up. We are the ones that haven't given up. So many people, you hear and they go, oh, it's so hard. That sounds so hard to get money out of politics. It's like, hell yes, it's hard. But you know what? Americans do hard things all of the time. This is the country that gave us modern representative democracy. And damn it, we'll have it back. And the first step is not to give up, to say, oh, it's too hard. And I say, you're not the kind of person that gives up as a first step, are you? And people are like, well, okay, no, that we say it like that. Well, at least give me a chance. All I'm asking is you give us a chance to try. You can sit on the couch and watch and see what happens, but don't sign the petition. Give us a chance. And a lot of people will sign, and then they come out, sometimes you get, you're the spoiler. But we all know that's a lie, right? That most Green Party voters are not going to vote for Democrats or Republicans. We've given up on that whole charade. And we're actually targeting the vast majority of Americans that don't vote or don't vote very much at all, right? Because they don't think that voting for the blue team or red team is going to make any significant difference in their lives. And you know what? Those people are correct. Okay, they're not wrong. They're correct. And those are Green Party voters. The vast majority of Americans that think that American politics is a charade, but we're trying to take it back ourselves for ourselves, So that's what I come on to say. So, thanks for hearing me out.
Thanks, Nathan.
Right on, Nathan. And before we begin our Q&A, I do want to give a shout out to Robin Laurain, who is going to be one of our MCs, and she could not make it today, but I wish her well. And she's fantastic. She's with our outreach committee and ballot access committee, but she also is one of the candidates that got us back on, kept our ballot access, retained our ballot access in Michigan, which would have been very difficult to get back. So we thank her for volunteering for that. We're going to have Jenny Lester with the Ballot Access Committee, as well as Green Party of Illinois, and Felina to lead our Q&A. And we're going to have just a few short announcements after that, or in the middle of the Q&A. So we can begin our Q&A now. I think Starlene has a question first, and then I'll let Jenny and Felina lead that up.
Sure. Thank you, Tony. And you and Rick and Nathan are really great. Thank you for that great presentation. I'm up in Washington, and we'll be collecting our signatures next spring. When I'm out in my wheelchair and trying to get signatures, I'm thinking there's a few things that could help me, that maybe the National Party with ballot access and outreach could collaborate on things. One would be to have a QR code that can be not on the petition, because the government wouldn't like that, but like right next to it, that people could take a quick photo of and get to the website after they sign. And also maybe some things that draw attention to us. I know people don't like to be approached by strangers. I mean, whether they're holding a petition or not, but like a Green Party hat or something to put on the back of the clipboard that says, friendly Green Party, come sign our petition, please. Just some outreach materials would be really helpful, I think. Thank you. Yes, it wasn't really a question, but maybe a request, but maybe you could tell me if we already have some of those things on the store and I'm missing them or what.
Great, thank you. And you can also put stack, our participants can put stack like stack of pancakes in the chat. Jenny or Felena, do you want to?
Yes, I think Holly was next, and then Nancy, Allie, and Davey. So go ahead, Holly.
Can I get my thing answered? Is that possible, Tony, to do that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, well, yes. I mean, I think it's best if the state party or local is actively, they have their own campaign. They really need to have on their website or something, a one-stop page. I could give you guys an example of one from North Carolina, although we took it down, but it's somewhere out there. It's not published. Yeah, you can have a one-stop page that has all of the information, has a script, and I can put an example of our script. You can have the instructions, where to send it to, all of that. I would have the QR code lead to that first, but then maybe it could also have two links, and one of the links could be to the state's ballot access page. But I think it's important that the state party, whoever is leading this up, ideally have their own page, because then they can like update. They'll know much better like where you are. Like if you need 2,000 more signatures, you can make that announcement. You know, if you need to really ramp it up at this specific event, put it on that page. That's a one-stop page, which like St. Louis had, Missouri Greens had. You know, they have a fantastic page that has the thermometer and things like that. Over.
Okay, thanks. And I believe Holly was next. Holly was, oh, I think she took her hand down.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Sorry. I thought this was an excellent presentation, and I thought a lot of this was very good, and really thank you for this. In some states, and I'm in one of them, these arguments have increasingly ceased to be very convincing, and we've developed another arsenal of some rationale for why people ought to sign our petition. I would like at some point to request maybe the Ballot Access Committee could host, or Rick, in your case, host from some of us in battleground states or states which I would say are under siege, because the usual, oh, we want the competition, let's play fair, that doesn't work when people are going to hell in a handcart. It's been increasingly difficult in my state. We deal with about a half rejections, and we went from where everybody would sign to half or less. So we've had to come up with better rationale for why people ought to take the risk to get our candidate on the ballot. It's not impossible, but it's not quite as I don't want to say Pollyanna sounding, but it's not quite as upbeat, but hopefully it will work. I will also mention that each state and local will have different best places. Some places are crowded, farmers markets and such, sometimes door to door is better. But I did want to also say, based on personal experience, when you talk to your Secretary of State or Board of Election and you get all the information, and as Tony mentioned, they're not always, you want to double check. But what I've learned, there should be a final question, and that is to say, once they're done, you say, is that all? Is there anything else I did not ask? Because my failing to ask that one time ended up with a quick last-minute trip to Des Moines and back. But you want to make sure you double check with these people. So, and anyway, again, I would just like to request that there might be a time for those battleground states that don't where the usual arguments don't work as well, that we can have a more thorough discussion and share some of the tactics that we have used that have been more productive or more persuasive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like Nancy Wallace is next.
Hey there, great presentation. Been petitioning myself for about 20 years and all the points were hit. My question is, could one of you give an overview of where we are on electronic voting? As I mentioned in the chat, we have a new state administrator coming in shortly. We've been having extensive discussions for the past year on electronic voting spurred by electronic signatures spurred by COVID. We got a temporary agreement last year, which is kind of expired. How are we doing in various other states and nationally? Thanks.
That's a really good question, and I've been trying to find out in the states that we're already starting to petition in. I don't think it's very widespread, and not to pick on Arizona, but they allow it for the major party candidates, but they don't allow it for party petitions or for minor party candidates, which to me seems like it should be a lawsuit. And I don't know really any states that were allowed to use it, but I hope I'm wrong.
I know we tried in Ohio, but we lost the ability to get digital signatures.
This is Jenny. There are some states that are working on it legislatively, and in the Ballot Access Committee, there is some people who are sharing best practices and their experiences. So if you become part of the Ballot Access Committee, you can learn stuff that has worked and take it to your state legislators.
I'm just wondering, I know that, states are extremely different, but I'm wondering if we might in the Ballot Access Committee, not that I'm on another committee, so I'd rather not volunteer for it myself, but if we might put together some model language, kind of our own model bill or language, and just have it there as a resource. Thanks, bye.
Thanks, that's what we're working on. Thank you.
If I may just add, I bet the National Council of Legislative Services, or whatever it's called, LCS, the national group that oversees legislatures, has legislation from the COVID era. And I think the thing to do in those states that allowed it during COVID is say, well, why not allow it anymore, and talk to the sponsors about that. But I'm pretty naive about it, but I bet there is model language out there that we could adopt instead of creating from scratch. Thank you.
I believe Allie in South Texas is next.
Okay, great, thank you. This is interesting, and I heard a lot of high-level information about sort of broad generalities across the country, and then I heard some very specific information about how to speak with volunteers or how to speak with the public. But I was hoping we could have more information about the plan and the specifics. I'm looking at the ballot access map that you have on your website, and it's interesting to see some states, of course, have access, some don't, some are in process. And I don't know, I guess maybe we don't have time now, but is there a national plan with specifics like, a budget and man hours to get it done in the states that are still working on this? Or is that something that you're leaving to the states? And then I guess if someone has time to just quickly review, which states or how many states have access, how many states are likely to get access, how many states we probably don't have the resources to get ballot access. Is anyone prepared with that information today?
I am.
Okay, great.
Sort of. The last part of the question, we're already on the ballot in 18 states, assuming we file our paperwork and pay our fees on time. There's 15 states that can't even start till the first of the year. So we're kind of procrastinating on those, but hoping that some states, like I had a great talk with Illinois party who's already got their plan. They can't start till March. And then right now we can be petitioning in 18 states, and we are petitioning in 9. So there is a strategy. It's not completely fleshed out as to the full budget, but we have a fairly good idea that it's going to cost us at least $500,000, which I think Tony mentioned earlier. And as far as man hours, it's really hard to say because some people get 15 signatures an hour, some get 10, some get 5. So it's not to the level of detail I think that you're asking for, but we have a skeleton, let's say, of what we're doing now, what we'll be doing next month, what we'll be doing in November, what we'll be doing in January. And we do have pretty good detailed information about when every state deadline is. And, you know, but there's still a lot of research to be done. I don't know if anyone has anything to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to add just a little bit. Yeah, so one of the things that I've been, you know, several of us have been working hard to do is to change the party culture, to have a culture of actually preparing for ballot access, looking at it as a 4-year strategy. It has to be a 4-year strategy and not something that we should solely put the onus on the presidential campaign. And there seems to be some folks that kind of rely upon that. I think that, you know, I've been, you know, several of us have been fighting to make sure that the party culture changes on that, and it has. We have the largest budget for an odd year that we've had, at least in my memory. So that's great. So we're not waiting into 2024 to budget to give funding to several of these states. So it's hard to say what's very specifically, but I do know that we have had funding for these states. So we just secured funding for Nevada to have some paid petitioners there. Nevada has begun petitioning. Maryland is doing great. Nancy Wallace is with Maryland, and we did just grant them several $1,000s. New Mexico, where Rick is from, we last year we gave them a grant that led to them getting enough signatures to qualify. We're also working with several other states. Missouri is another one where Nathan is from. We just gave them a grant of I think $5,000, but we may give them more. And so all of that is extremely vital. I'll give a little money pitch in a second, but so yes, we do have a plan. The issue is that the party right now does not. We're working towards becoming a party that can be more self-sufficient in terms of financing all of these ballot access states. But as Rick said, several of our states will have to be, if it's the presidential nominee, for example, it'll be the presidential nominee that will be petitioning to get on as an independent. And we can help the state with that, but that will also be the presidential campaigns. And it can be any of our nominees. So any of our nominees who want to help out with ballot access, we absolutely welcome you and welcome your support and assistance. I'm very optimistic. You know, New York is going to be probably the most difficult, and we'll need like a national brigade of sorts, although you have to be a New York resident. And I think all of the candidates that are in New York or presidential candidates will have to go all out. Arizona is also very difficult. I highly recommend whatever candidates are to actually have, you know, to get there before, you know, in the next month or two, and to have people on the ground and to have, you know, dozens of people out there with sign-up sheets, have hundreds of sign-up sheets and things like that. So hopefully we'll have those kinds of things coming down the pipe. Over.
Davi is next.
Greetings, everyone. I'm David, 2024 American presidential candidate seeking the Green Party. I appreciate the work and style of work that has been done before. One thing I've noticed, you know, about TGP is that I'm noticing some silos operating with an assumption that if we operate the way that we operate, somehow we'll be treated fairly. And what I've noticed about people, you know, I'm in New York, so what I've noticed about people is that they like competition. The excitement is not necessarily TGP itself, just like the excitement is not necessarily the red or blue parties, but rather the candidates and the ways of thinking they present. So is it stronger to say to someone, ask them to support the general ideal of the Green Party, or, hey there, we have this competition going on. Here are the candidates. To make sure you can vote for them, can you sign this petition, right? So it's a fundamental question about the perspective of the Green Party itself. Is the Green Party excited to present their slate of presidential candidates for the next year to the American public as representatives of the Green Party and a vessel to inspiring public hype, new members, and necessary signatures? Or is the Green Party looking for each of the candidates to prove themselves to the Green Party for the next year? Candidates, we can't do both. So only one of those options is going to create enough energies to win the presidential election for the Green Party. So echoing Dr. Call's call yesterday, enhancing from my perspective, I present to you all the concept of the Presidential Superfriends Coalition. This is a coalition of the presidential candidates and campaigns, organization elements within the Green Party, who will see each of the candidates as key and central parts of telling representing the Green Party story. So the collective goal will be to present the Green Party as a viable and trustworthy party, running an exciting primary process that should and will be the party backing the 2024 president through events, marketing, and general strategic movements. So I just wanted to present that, throw that out there. Like I said before, I'm echoing energy that Dr. Stein voiced yesterday. And I hope it can be received by both the balloting committee, but just generally within the party. Thank you.
Thanks. I believe Carrie is next.
Sorry, I had trouble going off mute. Just some tips in my quarter century of gathering hundreds of thousands of petitioners to put Greens on the ballot. And all the presentations so far were excellent and also fun and humorous. Keep it short and sweet. I generally find if I don't have the signature within 30 seconds to 60 seconds, I start to think moving on. And of course, that requires great discipline. I haven't heard anybody else here talk about the professional paid blockers that you will find out there at public events. We saw those in the Nader campaign in 2000. We saw those in Dr. Stein's campaign in 2016. And these are paid by the larger party, usually the blue party. And these people are talented coming up and distracting you and gobbling up your time. So if somebody's gobbling up your time, then sweetly and kindly smile and move on and get out of there as quickly as you can. The average validity rates, I haven't had anybody talk about that. 70% we find door to door, 50% out in general. Now we have had petitioners in Virginia, Elaine Hildebrand for one. Elaine, and I don't know how she did it, would get 90% validity, but she's extremely sweet and adorable. So, you don't always find that. And the very, very engaged talkative signers, the people who sign but don't want to let you go. I've always tried to recruit them as candidates and then get back in touch with them or recruit them as petition gatherers. And they have all that energy. So let's go use that green energy. Also here in Virginia, you have to petition since we haven't had ballot status and without petitioning it, you have to petition to get your individual candidates on. So a technique, as I mentioned in one meeting yesterday, is to carry multiple petitions. I've carried as many as 11, for example, for school board, county board, sheriff, House of Delegates, state Senate, clerk of courts. But next year here in Virginia, we'll only have U.S. House, U.S. Senate, and president. Let's see. Okay, those are all the tips I had. Thank you so much.
I just want to piggyback. I think Nathan said this, but I think all volunteer petitioners need to be reminded or told to ask first thing, are you a registered voter in this state? So thank you. Those are some really good tips.
Can I comment on that real quick? Which I do want to say, if you ask that first, at least as far as from my experience, people will often say no simply because it's like they think you may be someone trying to register them to vote, you know. So what I tend to do is I make the sale. Now, we may have differences on that. Make the sale, you know, and it is what Casey said is absolutely true. You gotta make it within like a minute or less, right? And when they're about to sign, say which are, you know, well, in North Carolina, we have to ask them which county are you registered to vote in, and then we have to give them the appropriate sheet. In Georgia, it's not very clear because it has county on there, but you have to have one county per same county, same sheet. And that's the reason why we didn't get on in 2016, because a lot of our petitioners were, it was not clear because it has a space for the county, a column for the county. So they thought, well, you know, multiple counties per sheet. No, it has to be one county per sheet. A lot of states don't require that. Arkansas is very simple. So know your petition sheet and have those organized. If it has to be by county, have the nearest counties organized, have, you know, for your volunteers, have the county written on it, all of that. And so when they're about to sign, that's when I asked about the voter registration. And here's one more thing in terms of getting a higher number of votes that count. I mean, sorry, petitions that count. If you're on campuses tend to be very low in terms of the qualification. However, it's possible to do it. We would not be on the ballot in North Carolina if we did not go to campuses, because they tend to be very consistent. Go to state campuses. Do not go to private colleges because they often have a lot of out-of-staters, right? So go to state, you know, in-state campuses, community colleges, and as a mainstay, I wouldn't do it for like your big events. To go to those places and ask 3 times. You got to ask 3 times. Please put down the address where you are registered to vote. And then remind them again, you got to just remind them. So this is the address where you're registered to vote, right? And then, you know, a light bulb might click, you know, oh no, I'm registered to vote, you know, in Charlotte or, you know, Minneapolis, whatever state you're in, and realize that they're registered as their parents or permanent resident. And sometimes they get registered near the campus. So those are a few things I would say would help to increase, but campuses can be very, very good.
Yeah.
Young people are very open to signing.
If I could make just one other point, I forgot. We went door to door this year. Our petition window has closed quite some time ago, first week of June here in Virginia, but we went door to door this year for the first time since COVID, and everybody was generally fine. We didn't see people unafraid to come to the door or to sign the petition or to use the pin. Someone had asked about that in the chat. So door to door is working fine again.
Okay, the list that I have shows DA Meadows is next, then Jill Stein, then Linda Lance, who does not have the hand option, and then Orson and Susan.
Jenny, I'm sorry, but Jill is next. The video at the top left is the next person.
As she said, Jill.
Thank you so much. And really fabulous presentation. Just great job by the Ballot Access Committee and Nathan and Rick, really amazing. And Tony, of course. Thank you for all your work on this. I have a couple of little questions and then a bigger question. Little one is first, if someone wants to donate, can they donate directly to the Ballot Access Committee, or do they donate to the GPUS and then write on it, you know, please, you know, targeted for whatever the Ballot Access Committee? How do people get money to the Ballot Access Committee? Can anybody answer that?
I love that question.
I posted the link in the chat. I'll post it again for direct for the ballot access. I think it's donate_BAC.
Okay. And if they're writing a check, how is a check directed?
Oh, that would probably be to the treasurer with the comment for memo ballot access.
Okay, and so I think donations to the
information.
party, I think, go to GPUS, if I'm not
Green Party
mistaken.
of US, yeah,
Yeah.
Green Party of the United States. And
Okay.
put for ballot access, and if you can add a note with the check, this is towards the ballot access committee fund. And, but all of I do want to make a pitch, and it's the perfect timing, Jill. Thank you for mentioning that. Ballot Access Committee has provided, like I said, hundreds of thousands of dollars over, past, decades or so for ballot access for different states. This has been critical. I know North Carolina wouldn't have gotten on the ballot if we hadn't gotten our $6,000 to $7,000, I think $7,000 over a couple of years in ballot access support. So I am making that official pitch right now. If any of you who have not recently donated to Ballot Access Committee, this link right here that I am putting in gp.org/donate_BAC. I'm putting it here in the chat. Also, David Doonan, our webmaster, has been great at putting ballot access on the main website. So if you go to gp.org, you click ballot access, that won't be the first page won't be the donate link. It'll be an overall landing page, but then you'll see donate. There'll be a donate link there. So those funds will be specifically earmarked at 90% of those funds will go to the ballot access fund.
Great.
So thanks for mentioning that.
Can you also, this is wishful thinking, but as I understand it, the donation limit to the Green Party of the United States is what? It's like $30,000. In theory, someone could target that. I mean, if we found a suitable donor, they could, in theory, target that, with a memo on the check to the Ballot Access Committee. Is that correct?
Yes, I think it's 36,000, a little over 36,000. It might be 36,500. I have to double check that first. $36,000 can be donated to towards the Green Party per year.
And that can be targeted to Ballot Access Committee, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Only from the individual though.
That's right. Yes.
And the individual has to be alive.
Right. And all the usual qualifiers. They can't be a corporation. They cannot be a federal contractor. They have to be a US citizen or permanent legal resident, right? I think those, and they have to be over age 18, I think. Okay. Couple other quick ones. I want to underscore how fabulous the website is that the Green Party of Missouri has for ballot access. It's really great. It's got fabulous resources. Any state can just go there and use that as a model and do knockoffs. There's a flyer to hand out. I don't know if you have a script prototype posted yet, but it would be great if you could post your script prototype too. I mean, this would be ideal if every state could create a little ballot access page, which is kind of a knockoff of what Missouri is doing. So consider that. And then my question really to the team here or anybody is, if, among us, people are in states where there's an active party, all good. We know what to do next, which is to organize with your active party, and your party should be networking with the Ballot Access Committee. But if you don't have an active party, and there are some states that don't, what's the next thing that those people should do? If you want to help create such a thing, and you want to help lead the charge in your state, they should contact the Ballot Access Committee, contact Rick, contact Nathan. What do you recommend for people who don't have kind of an obvious vehicle forward in your state?
Who are you asking that?
I'm asking each of you, actually, just, a quick quick round robin, what are your suggestions for the best way for somebody to like help get something going in their state if they don't have an active state party?
I mean, I say. I mean,
They
that-
should set
get
up
to
a
work.
mutual aid event.
Yeah, I mean, get working. I mean, go, I mean, number one, get hold of your Secretary of State's office, find out what format they want it in. I mean, write the petition yourself, get it okayed, and go petition. Go find people that also like what you're doing, and that will help. I mean, don't think about acting, act, and then make and change as you go along. Think, make it better. Reach out to other Greens who will help you from other states.
I
Other
wonder-
thoughts, suggestions?
I wonder if either the outreach committee or the accreditation committee might have guidelines for helping to start new parties. But as far as getting the petitioning going, I totally agree with Nathan. Get going, find 3 friends, have them find 3 friends. We used to call it, for those of us over a certain age, we used to call it the well of balsam model of organizing. If you remember that commercial with tell 2 friends and they told 2 friends, and the next thing you knew, you had 64 people on the screen, kind of like our Zoom meeting here, who all used well of balsam shampoo. But anyway, I guess I'm dating myself.
All right, for those of you who have access to the chat, I've been posting some links. So one of them, go to Ballot Access. You'll see a Ballot Access link. All you have to do is remember gp.org. You'll see Ballot Access right up there, right at the top. Click on Ballot Access, and then it'll have other links for your states. You can sign up to volunteer then. Now, if you don't have an active state party, you might not get like an immediate turnaround. But if you do, if you are in a state that will need Ballot Access help, you will be contacted. There will be, so I'm going to be actually for the next Ballot Access meeting that we're going to have for volunteers, it's going to be on the 21st. So I am putting that Zoom link again in the chat to register. So everyone here is welcome to register to come to that meeting. We won't be, we won't have time to answer every question, but I think what we're going to do is to help. Like there might be several people from one state. We can help sync you up. You could be, let's say, from California, right? And California's on the ballot, although you guys still need to have registration, very important voter registration drive. So you're not out of the clear with California. So you guys can help with that, but also you could help out with phone banking, or you could have a relative in one of these states. Like Rick was saying, a neighbor's or like a brigade. A lot of the independent parties that have gotten on the ballot in many states have had literal like brigades of people come for a weekend or something like that, or sometimes longer. And they have people come out. This is what we're going to have to do for, let's say, New York or Illinois. We're going to have people come from out of state to help, or in New York, we're going to have to be all out, anyone from New York, so hopefully we'll have some big names recruiting the troops out there to get them to come out and to not only sign, but to get 10 signatures, get 5 signatures. That's how we're going to do it. So do go to gp.org/ballot_access, or you'll see it right there, gp.org. Click on Ballot Access, click on your state, and you can sign up to volunteer. That information does go directly to your contact with your state. So if you don't hear back from them, let's say in 2 weeks, or if you're getting close to your deadline, 2 days, if your deadline's 2 months away, you can't, 2 weeks is an eternity. So if you don't hear back from them, do email BAC, Ballot Access Committee, BAC@gp.org. Or you can email me directly, Tony, TONY, @gp.org. So we'll help you out. Thank you, Jill. Those were all phenomenal questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
DA's had his hand up for quite a while. I think it's his turn.
Thank you so much, Rick. And I want to start by thanking everyone for attending this meeting. And I would just want to say what an honor it is to follow Dr. Jill Stein. I voted for you as a write-in here in Georgia in 2016, and I'm proud to say that. And anyone who tells me a spoiler, I say, look at the actual numbers. No way you spoiled anything here in Georgia. And thank you for the great questions, specifically as they pertain to here in Georgia, as we do not have an active state party. I've heard earlier today in previous meetings that there is an active group of a membership of 5. I think I had found about 4 people to start. I want to apologize to Rick because we had shared, or you had sent me an email. Unfortunately, I've been busy organizing the 3rd annual March for Medicare for All, so I hadn't gotten back to you yet. But I am committed to making sure that we have not only what we've had in the last 4 cycles here in Georgia, registered write-in candidate for the Green Party, but to actually have a name on the ballot. And so I want to thank everybody again for being at this meeting. I think it's very important. I've been looking into the ballot access requirements here in the state of Georgia. We need approximately 7,000 signatures. And I want to thank the Green Party in Georgia previously, as it was, because they actually did lower that threshold from 5% to 1%. And that was a great win for the Green Party in the state of Georgia at that time. And so that leaves us with that. I think it's prudent to at least put a 3% excess on that goal to say, hey, we're looking for 10,000 signatures in the state of Georgia. I want to thank Tony for pointing out the county issue, because here in Georgia, we also have 159 counties. So that's a lot of petition pages. And my main question comes down to our window to capture signatures, or to collect signatures rather, here in the state of Georgia is from February to August of 2024. Being that the primary process in the Green Party, it appears, will be taking a little longer than prior to February, would it be prudent for us in the state of Georgia to be having petitions for all 4 candidates in the state of Georgia, or all 4 candidates for the Green Party nomination for president in our collection here in the state of Georgia? And thank you again, everybody, for attending this meeting. I'm learning so much and gleaning so much from this meeting. Thank you so much. Over.
I wouldn't mind addressing the petition question, because it's a really good question that's going to come up in a lot of states. And I would say, you know, and the issue, in the interest of fairness, that would be the way to go. But in the interest of actually succeeding, that might splinter the number of signatures you can get in that 5 or 6 month period. The thing to find out in every state, but since you're in Georgia, is if you circulate a petition for one of the presidential candidates, and then a different candidate wins the GPUS nomination at the convention, would you legally be allowed to substitute that person after the convention? Again, that's going to come up in a lot of states. Some states allow it and some don't. So that's, I guess, my not precise answer. Thanks.
Can I say one quick thing to that? Most states do not. I know Ohio does. I know Pennsylvania does. So those are two of the biggie states that we will probably be doing that. Having, you know, I at least heavily encourage the state party to do that. So let's say in Ohio, I think they're trying to petition for statewide access. It's a very, very, very high threshold for them. So I encourage to have concurrently a stand-in candidate who's, you know, a member of your state party, who would then be able to transfer that to the nominee. One thing I did learn from Richard Winger, you can't mix and match. So let's say, you know, you have your stand-in candidate signatures, right? You have to go to the full, let's say in Ohio, 5,000 signatures. You can't mix that with, let's say, if, you know, a presidential candidate starts petitioning, they can't combine the two, if it has the presidential candidate's name, unfortunately, even though that standing candidate would be then giving those signatures to that other person, they can't combine the two, even though, you know what I mean? So it has to be five, for instance, in Ohio, it has to be 5,000 certified signatures for one person. On one person, one name on that sheet, and then that person can substitute their name or transfer their nomination to the presidential nominee. I know that sounds it's a mess, but it's we've done it before. We did it in Ohio in 2020, and we tried to do it in Pennsylvania, but they caught us on a technicality, almost questionably legal, whether or not that was legal or not. But it didn't matter. The judges, the courts ruled a certain way, just as like in Montana, the state judges ruled illegally to keep us off the ballot months after the deadline, even after the actual ballots were printed. That was really outrageous, and it can get dirty out there. So let's buckle our seatbelts in terms of this is going to be a long haul, but we can do it.
Okay, there are two people left, Orson and then Susan.
Hello, yeah, I'm out in Virginia. I would love to volunteer. I think I saw Carrie Campbell. I think you said you were in Virginia, so I'd love to, help out here in Virginia. Also, I have a question for whoever would like to answer this. Jill Stein was talking about fundraising for the ballot access, budget, and there's a theater that I organize events for out here in Virginia. It can fit 139 people, and I could try to organize an event with music and sell tickets or something if that could help raise funds as well. So if you want to let me know who I can email about that, I'd be happy to help out with that.
I think I was next, wasn't I?
Me?
Who was that?
It's Susan. I heard you say that Orson and then me, and I just wanted to make
Yes.
sure you were calling on me.
Yes,
Okay.
you're next.
And you
Thanks.
skipped Linda.
Okay.
Okay, after Susan, then Linda. Sorry, Linda.
Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to say, Tony mentioned something about brigading, and that's kind of what my volunteer Twitter group does. I'm in a group with Stephanie Voltolan, who does amazing graphics. She and I got this group together after the Matt Ho campaign last year. And basically what we're doing is we're ginning up interest in getting Greens on the ballot, and also in getting people registered Green. And as a matter of fact, today we're doing a tweet storm to get people to register Green Rainbow Party in Massachusetts. And that is like, you need to get 50,000 registered Green Rainbow Party voters in order to get ballot access. Now they can actually go on and get 10,000 signatures for each candidate afterwards, like in 2024, but that's a lot of work because you really need to double it. So hopefully we get the 50,000 Green, they get the ballot access, but we do this, we're coordinating with, we have some people with the Ballot Access Committee we're working with. We also are coordinating with the Cornell West campaign. We are a volunteer group. So, we can do, if you want to set up your own volunteer group to do something different, that's fine. But I just wanted to invite people. And it really is a lot of fun. We have, a good group. It's a lot of energy. And it's a lot of fun. It's like a game almost, like, retweeting each other and commenting on each other's tweets. And it's just, again, it's a way to raise awareness. I hate that phrase, but it is kind of what we're doing. And we can't, physically get people to sign petitions, but they will have heard about it before the person with the clipboard, talks to them. So it's like it kind of is going to help with your making your pitch. This will not be the first time they'll have heard of this when you are there with your clipboard. So anyway, hopefully people can join us. I'll put some links in the chat. We have a website with a lot of ballot access information that is specific to every state. We also have a sign up form there on the top if you want to join us. You just give us our Twitter handle. We don't need anything else. So anyway, I'll put that in the chat, but the website is ballot.greens.org. And anyway, thanks so much. And thanks to everybody for this wonderful panel.
Yeah,
Thanks. And now
thank
Linda.
you, Susan.
Linda, Lance.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, yeah, I want to raise a question that I haven't heard discussed before. Maybe it has been, but we've been putting up with this for decades. This unfair petitioning, which is meant and directed at us. Let's face it. And I think we have to step back and begin to think bigger, that we shouldn't have to take this anymore, and we need to campaign to change it nationally. We need to expose it. Most people don't know every single state in the country is different ballot requirements, that some are very reasonable and others are absolutely outrageous. And they also don't know that in most advanced democracies, this would be unheard of. We need to get those facts out to the American public to let them know why the Green Party is not a mass party by now. And this would take up a whole lot of democratic issues, not only ballot access, but it would be reporting our vote, which most of them, half of them don't even do, equal time provisions for our candidates. That used to be a law. People don't even know that. I think it was Reagan's administration. They just dropped the equal time provisions from the FCC. That all these outrages are just going uncontested by the left. And I think it's up to us to raise them because we're the brunt of it. So I'm suggesting a subcommittee or something of ballot access or the election campaign committee that sets up a subdivision. First of all, I don't know how much of somebody must know the history, all the challenges we've had to mount, how much they've cost, what the Democratic Party has done to us, like suing Nader, etc. We need to expose all this stuff because a lot of our members don't even know it. So that's my suggestion, and I'm willing to work on this. I think whoever wins our nomination for president and vice president, we should have a coalition around that campaign because it's possible. We already got Socialist Alternative, Peace and Freedom. Different people are going to be supporting our campaign this year, but they have to be organized to be working and coordinating together. And we could have a big conference, and this could be a central point of that conference to fight for democratic elections. And it's not just leftists that would support this. There's organizations like Common Cause, and I found out when we organized a independent political action conference in 2015, there were all kinds of organizations that came out of the woodwork that are for democratic elections. And we need to put all those people together and have a concerted, unified campaign. So that's my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda.
Yep, I agree. And I had prepared some closing remarks, but we're way past time. And I think Linda really just wrapped it up perfectly for long-term goals. That was what I was going to talk about. So
Thank
great.
you, Linda, that you gave us the great closing we needed. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
We're going to the closing now with Jill?
Yeah, with Jill.
Yes.
Don't leave.